Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tech Tutorial Tuesday, where today we'll continue our exploration of the Zoom chat tool and look at all the various settings and options available to us. On my screen here I have my Zoom app open, and as a quick reminder to access the settings, I'm going to click my initials in the top right hand corner and then simply select the settings option here. This will pop open all of my Zoom settings, but for purposes of this tutorial we're going to be focusing on what's available to us under chat. So I'm going to select chat, and then you'll notice that I have quite a bit of options here. So in this training I'm going to walk through the entire list, and while not every single setting is going to be applicable or important to you, I think it's important to understand what all of these options do. So starting from the top here, the first option we see is Show Audio Message button. And if you think back to last week's video, you'll remember I went over recording an audio message here. So by unclicking this button, all it does is it makes the audio message field go away, period. If you don't see yourself using audio messages very often, or you find it to be a distraction there on your screen, feel free to go ahead and uncheck that button. Personally, I like having it there. Sometimes if I don't feel like typing out a long message, I'll do an audio message. So for myself, I'm going to leave it enabled there. The next one, the Show Code Snippet button, this is more geared toward developers. So since we don't have any developers at UGOC, I don't envision anyone using this, but let me show you what it does. So if I click Show Code Snippet button, I now have a little code icon here, and you can open that up and start typing code. So if anyone here is a developer and you want to play around, go for it. But again, I don't think it's going to be applicable to most folks at the organization. So I'll leave that one off for myself. The next one is Include Link Preview. So you'll see on my screen here, I've sent myself a link to the New York Times. And if I enable this link preview, it'll pop open a preview of the website. So not all websites have a link preview, but the ones that do, it'll give you a glimpse into the website before you actually click into the link. So obviously the Times, I know what it looks like with or without this, but some more obscure websites, it could be a handy feature to have it shown here and visible. So I like to have it on, and in my settings I'm going to go ahead and leave it enabled. The next one here is an auto changing of your status to away when you're away from your computer. So rather than having to go to the top right here and changing your status to away, when the computer sees that you've been away for a certain amount of time, it can auto change your status for you. So if you click the drop down, there's all various options here. For me personally, I like 15 minutes. I think that's a fair amount of time to start showing away if I'm gone from my computer. So I like to leave that one enabled and at 15 minutes. If you uncheck this box, it'll never auto change your status to away. So if you want to show away to the rest of the company, again, you'll have to click your initials here and change your status to away. The next one here, the left sidebar theme, dark or light, that's just going to change the color of your display here. So as you can see, I'm on dark, so I have this nice dark background here, but if I hit light, it changes it to a white background for me. Again, personal preference, you do what you think is best for you and what you enjoy looking at the most. For me, I like when it's dark, so I'm going to leave mine on dark. Next, we move on to blocked users. We can click and manage blocked users. And from here, you'll see I have no one. So I don't see a scenario in which we'll be blocking one another on the platform. If it ever gets to a point where you feel like you may need to block someone, definitely reach out to me or Matt first, and we'll try to take care of it on the back end. So this feature is here, but again, I don't know that we'll be using it very often. Next, we work our way down into the unread messages section here. So by having keep all unread messages on top enabled, you'll see that all of the windows where I haven't read messages yet are at the top of my list. So if I uncheck this, moving forward, it doesn't matter where I have unread messages, they'll stay wherever they are in this list. So if Ashley sent me a message right now and it was unread, she would remain right here. By enabling this, if Ashley again sent me a message right now, it would move to the top of my list and I'd see all of my unread messages there at the top. Moving on to show unread message badges for channels. So as you can see at the top here, I have a chat with Matt going. That's an individual chat. And then we also have a chat going with Tracy here, which is created as a channel. So again, we'll touch on channels more in part 3 of our Zoom chat training next week. But for now, what's important to know is that Mima is a channel and Matt is a chat. So I have this box unselected, which is why instead of seeing a number icon like this in the Mima chat, it's just a little red dot. However, if I do select this, you'll see it changes to an icon indicating that I have one missed message. So again, we'll get into channels in more depth next week. Channels are an area where communication and messages could come more frequently than in a private chat. So that'll be something you'll want to keep in mind as we start utilizing channels more down the line. Move messages with new replies to the bottom of the chat. Again, this is a feature where as messages come in your chats, I brought up last week that you can reply to individual ones. So if there was a long list of messages going here and someone replied to one toward the top of my screen, by enabling this, it would move that message to the bottom of my chat window to make sure that I don't miss it. So this is one that I like to have enabled, so I'm going to go ahead and select it, and then the next time I restart Zoom, that'll be applied to my settings here. The next section here applies rather to channels in general. So again, channels are an area where communication might be coming in far more frequently. So this is you telling it, do you want channel messages to start at the first one that you missed when you click into it, or do you want it to start at the latest? So again, let's say there's 50 messages in a chat channel. If you have start at the first unread, it'll take you to the top of that channel and you can work your way down. If you're only interested in the most recent, I would select start at the latest, and that would start you right at the bottom of the channel. So I like to make sure I'm caught up on everything, so I'm going to keep mine at start at the first unread. Next section here, push notifications. Those are those fun little icons that pop up in the bottom corner of your screen when you receive notifications. So here you could tell it what you want to receive push notifications for. Again, I like to make sure I don't miss anything, so I have it enabled for all messages. But if you find that you're receiving an influx of Zoom chats and it's becoming overwhelming with the amount of notifications, you can either set it to only private messages and mentions, which will remove channels from your notifications, or you can even take it one step further and turn push notifications off, period. Again, we can dig down even deeper by creating exceptions for channels. And again, I wouldn't worry about this too much for the forthcoming week, but when we touch on channels in the next video, start to keep in mind some of these additional settings that come with channels. We can indicate even more specific keywords that we want to be notified for. So if I know I'm working on a specific property or specific project and there's a word associated to it, so let's say we're talking about Fox Run, if I want to be notified every time someone mentions Fox Run in one of my chats, I can set that up here. Super handy feature if you're receiving a lot of chats and there's a specific topic that you know is super important to you. You can set that as a keyword for notifications and you'll be notified when those messages come through. Next, we have the notify me about new replies on messages I'm following. So again, in here you can set a message to follow. So let me click into Matt here. And if I want to follow this message, I just right click and I follow the message. So by following this and having this box enabled here, notify me about new replies on messages I'm following, every time someone replies to this specific message, I'll receive a visible notification that there's communication there. Next is the do not disturb, which I touched on briefly in last week's video. So again, if I enable this, I can set the times that I don't want to be disturbed. So let's say I have set hours that I'm in the office from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m. If I don't want to receive notifications before or after those times, I can set my status automatically to do not disturb in that range. So I tend to be available basically anytime I'm awake. So I'm going to go ahead and disable that. And that way when folks see my name in the list here, I won't show as do not disturb. play sound when I receive a new message. So I'm sure a lot of you noticed when you first started using Zoom Chat that the sound notification that comes with the notifications is pretty out there. So I went ahead and disabled that. You can certainly leave it enabled. Just be aware that it is a loud notification. So to kind of jump out of this for a second, everyone does have a sound mixer on their computer. So if you open this, let me move this over, it'll show you everything running on your computer that has audio associated with it. So if you do leave that option enabled, you can just go ahead and turn down the volume of Zoom, and it'll leave all of the other volumes on your computer untouched. So quick sidebar, but definitely good to know if you want to have those sound notifications without the super obnoxious level of volume there. Mute chat notifications while I'm in a meeting or internal call. So of course Zoom Chat knows when you're on a Zoom meeting, and when you're in a Zoom meeting, you can make it so that regardless of what your settings are up here, you won't receive any of the pop-up notifications on your screen. So I like to have that enabled when I'm in a Zoom meeting. I don't like to be distracted by a bunch of notifications popping up on my screen. So again, I go ahead and leave that one enabled for myself. Show notification banner on screen until dismissed. So again, this is for those pop-ups that you get when messages come in. If you want to have to manually dismiss them, you can go ahead and enable this. But if you only want it to show for 1 or 2 seconds, leave it unchecked. So again, I get a ton of Zoom chats. I don't want all of them to show here until I manually disable them. So for myself, I leave that one off. And then the last setting here is the show message preview. Let me go ahead and get on my phone and send myself a message so you can see what this looks like. So if I go ahead and message myself, you'll see because I have this enabled, show message preview, you see exactly what I said here in the message. If I uncheck this, and then I send myself another message, you'll see that it just pops up with new notification. So if you work in a shared space or you just want more privacy on your screen, you can leave this one unchecked. Again, because I work in a pretty private space and I like to see all those previews here in the corner, I leave this one checked. One last thing I want to touch on quick is a few of you have reached out to me saying that I show up twice in the contact list, which is true. So the one that I see on my list here is tied to my individual UGOC email address. I am not on this account for Zoom Chat. You'll see that there's another account with my name when you go into the contacts here that's tied to zoomadmin@ugoc.com. That's the account I'm utilizing. That gives me easy access to troubleshoot any issues you guys have with Zoom meetings or with Zoom Chat. So for the foreseeable future, I will not be on the one tied to my individual email address. I will be reachable at the zoomadmin@ugoc.com. And that wraps up this week's tutorial. For those of you that have already downloaded Zoom Chat and started utilizing the platform, thank you. And for those of you that haven't yet, make sure you log in and start chatting on there in the next day or two. All right, I'll see you guys next week with another Tech Tutorial Tuesday.